example, if you wanted dyes, you wanted to make alcohol, or that sort of goods, the industry need that. They need to process that. They produce the factories. The local people work in the factories, and then in order to get the money back from there, you sell them pesticides, you sell them other things, so they can intensively farm. And one thing that happens quite a lot is that if the land isn't good, you have animals. The animals eat the grass, they produce feces. This feces you sell to your neighbours who have farmable land, and you distribute the wealth that way, and then it becomes kind of self-sustaining. And then, if the land becomes more valuable or is not workable, and you can just sell it, then your wealth is in your land, and you sell it at a high price to an industry. That industry is set up there, and they recruit from the local. I understand if you've got this sort of land mass difference and you've got this sort of population difference, it's just because of the hukum they can't move, therefore.
The fundamental question is this: in terms of trade, it's an agriculture sector and an industry sector is not symmetric to some extent. So, industry sector always has advantage to do that because, as we said, the supply side.
At the start, industry have the hand because they say, look, if we don't buy it, who's going to buy it? But once that industry starts to grow and they become reliant upon certain sources, and it becomes too expensive for them to outsource. For example, in the UK, we just go, our land is too expensive, we need the land for this, so therefore we just import. But then the importers hold us to ransom. But in China, they can't really do that.
Yes, but the agriculture sector itself now cannot compete, for example, with outside world in terms of international price, for example. So they still, it's on the hand of an industry sector. So it's very difficult for the agriculture sector itself to compete. It's actually, when you look at specific households in rural areas, they actually produce at a loss. For example, on average, because China is a very nice land scarce country, and every rural household on average have roughly of a workable land roughly 1,000 square meters. 1,000 square meters can produce what? In terms of income, can generate the income of roughly 1,000 yuan, which is equivalent to 100 pounds. So this is a net revenue that you can get almost, by growing agriculture on average out of this. So 100 pounds cannot do anything. So you cannot afford to buy. And this is just the revenue. And then not to say you have to input, for example, fertilizer, seeds, and then you have to import labor, machines.
Would you say that's seasonal? Is that per season, or is that annual?
Annual. Because in China, most of the places have twice crops a year. But many places, they only have one crop. Of course, in some southern part, they have 3 crops a year. But still, because of those inferior problem of agriculture sectors, and it's very difficult for them to generate enough revenue out of this. Yes, Dave.
Is there not a chance that the government is going to abolish the quota system anyway? Because a couple of months ago, there was a number of newspapers had editorials calling for it to be abolished, and about the same time when Xiaobing gave a speech on reforming of the system. So is it not in the works anyway?
Yes, it's on the way to. On general trend, well, the hukou system will be abolished, but we want to say that it has to be abolished in an orderly way, not in a rush. For example, the incentives for the government now, for some, if it's not central government, for local government, is this. Because when city expands, they need land. Now, they don't have land. So what they do is they get land from rural households. But if I give you an urban hukou, I don't compensate because the land system in China says this. When it is rural land, rural villagers collectively own the land. But when it's urban land, the state owns the land, i.e. the city government owns the land. So the city government can use the land for whatever they want to do. They don't compensate anybody. So that many people will. So in this case, we say that city government may want to use this abolish the hukou as an excuse or as a way for land proliferation. So they're not actually full rural residents. They're actually from the land. So it's just a way for them to get land in that sense. So there is a danger that we want to point out. This will not solve the fundamental problem that China is facing, but it will create another problem. But of course, in the long run, for, as we say, justice and the freedom reasons for all those, it has to be abolished, but in a more precautionary way.
Oh, I think it's about time for today. Yeah, thanks for coming. And if you've got any further questions, you can stay behind to ask Dr. Wang for more questions. In week 7 after the reading week, we're going to hold another China quiz, like the one in the start of term, in the welcome party, basically. So you're more than welcome to come. And have a round of applause to Dr. Wang. And yeah, if you have more questions, you're more than welcome to stay behind for a little while. Dr. Wang is going to stay along here for us as well.